Yeah, and how exactly, Colonel, do they have the Ukrainians' backs, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, moral support, everybody wearing lapel pins, to show the solidarity with Ukraine. But what Ukraine needs is, if you remember Zelensky, I don't need a ride, I need ammo. So they need anti-aircraft weaponry, anti-armor, anti-platform sorts of weaponry. And yes, the intel is very, very important. But when the enemy is ringing your city, you kind of know where they're at, right? So what they need is munitions and supplies. To be able to withstand the assault that's coming on these major cities.
But if I would have told you, Colonel, 7 days ago that after 7 days, Russia still would not control the Ukrainian airspace, would you have argued with me?
I would have been very surprised, and I think we are all surprised at how ineffective the assaults have been. The Russians have made several mistakes. They've run into logistical problems. They're even mounting reports of desertions by Russian forces, leaving their vehicles and walking back to Russia. I mean, I'm getting those reports from folks very close to the situation there. So it has been extraordinarily surprising how poorly the Russian forces have been to this point, but they do have massive, overwhelming advantage in just sheer firepower. And I think we're going to see that on display in Kharkiv and in the next 24 hours around Kyiv itself, the capital city.
And we should know that Russia has apparently captured the city of Kherson in the southern part of Ukraine. It's not a huge victory. And I'm wondering if you believe, Colonel, that is taking their eye off the ball, or do they need to capture these things, or should they focus on the bigger targets?
Well, I mean, Russia is going to continue this relentless drive. Again, one of those mistakes was spreading your force too thin. 4 axes of advance. You can't get unified effort or value out of those things. So they kind of bungled it at the very beginning. But just an overwhelming massed firepower, Russia still has an advantage on that. But they're fighting against a determined opponent. The Ukrainians, for them, this is a survival war. And so you're going to see a heck of a lot more willpower and innovativeness and stick-to-itiveness on the part of Ukraine than you will on Russians who don't know why they're there and appear to be poorly led. So, it's anybody's game, but I think just in mass, it still favors the Russians. And Putin is going to be as brutal as he possibly can. Recalling Chechnya, right, in Grozny, which has often been referred to. This is mass fires, and Ukrainians will have a tough fight on their hands.
But as you noted there, you only have so many forces. The Russians have 180,000. We don't know, maybe 10,000 in the Black Sea. It's exactly unclear, but 80% of those are in the country right now. And if you're taking Mariupol and you're taking Kherson, you're taking some of these smaller areas, you don't have the resources to take the big targets. Is that a fair assessment?
It's a very fair assessment, and they're working on extended lines of supply. So they don't have an inexhaustible supply of munitions. But what they do have, especially on the air, we'd said that they had used that poorly, but they still do have use of the air, whereas the Ukrainians have a limited advantage of that. And the fact that they're not going to get NATO's support in terms of forces in the air or boots on the ground or whatever phrase you want to use, it does kind of limit what Ukraine can bring to battle.
Yeah, indeed it does. Colonel Wood, always great to have you on, sir. Thank you.